Hey there, and welcome on back. As always, I'm Carl with Targets the Aptitude, absent-minded professor of knives and all things sharp. Sit on back, grab your pens and paper. Class is about to begin. It's Monday, so it's knife basics, what your daddy forgot to teach you. Today, we're looking at locks. Yes, locks, but not padlocks. We'll get to this in just a minute, though. First, as always, we've got to get the syllabus work taken care of. If you're new to the channel, welcome. I do mainly knife reviews with an occasional review of some camping and survival gear. On Mondays, I do knife basics, what your daddy forgot to teach you. This one is aimed at people who are just now getting into knives and don't really know as much as they wish they did. I'm going over the basics, helping you get your feet so that when you go to buy your next knife, you're not sitting there going, blah, 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 as the knife man talks to you about whatever it is you're looking at. For those of you who've been around for a while, welcome back. I'm glad you made it back. Just got one question for y'all. Have you subscribed yet? Yeah, I'm asking once again. I know I do it every time. I know you're getting tired of it, but dude, I need the subscribers. And let's be honest, it's a win-win situation. It's so easy. You just hit that little button right down there. It says subscribe. Then you hit the bell next to it. That way you get notified every time I put up a new video. Win for you because you know whenever I put up a new video, you don't miss anything. Win for me because, let's be honest, the more subscribers I have, the easier it is to get all these neat new things. But, on to class. Now, in the early days when I first started collecting knives, most knives were like this little canoe. You didn't have a lock of any type, you just had one or two blades, and you see how that back piece is kind of opening up a little bit, and then as it comes all the way open, it closes again. It's actually a sort of a spring, and it works both ways. And this one is called a canoe because it looks kind of like a canoe when it's closed. But that's really a subject for a different day. But there was no lock on here. You want to close your knife, you just press against the blade, and it closed. Nice, simple. And as long as the spring was tight and you kept good care of your knives, not really a problem. But with some of the bigger knives, especially some of the hunters, and folding hunters, people started having a problem in that they'd be using them in the field and they'd be trying to get in there and dig in a little bit, and all of a sudden, bang, there goes the knife blade, closing on their fingers. Not a pleasant sensation, definitely. So, first of the various knives that first got introduced with a lock was the Lockback. You notice it's got a little thing right there that you can push down. It opens up easily. You notice it even has that same metal piece that the canoe had. But the difference is when this snaps in, it locks. You cannot close that knife. It's just not going to. By the way, for those of you who are interested, this is a Soligen, which is it's the Tree brand classic. This was made in Germany, and it is just, these are some of the sweetest knives out there. As you can see, it's 440C, but I'm not trying to do a knife review, so won't go too far into it. As I said, you can't close the blade. It will not close. What you do, this little button right here on the back of the handle, you push it down, and the back opens up, releases the blade, so that you can close it again. Since it buttons on the back, and the locking piece is this piece right here, also on the back. It's called a lockback. Pretty simple. Makes sense, right? Okay. As time went on, started coming out with other types of locks. Probably the most common lock nowadays, especially now that we're getting into flippers, is what's called a Linerlock. Why is it called a Linerlock? Well, if you look in here, the two black handle scales, which in this case are carbon fiber, you'll see a piece of stainless steel on either side. That's called a liner. The liner is not always steel. Sometimes it's other material. I've even seen it be made of wood. But with a liner lock, when you open the knife up, see where a piece of that liner comes on in and covers about between 1/3 and half of the tang of the blade, so that when you try to close it, that liner is right in the way. It won't let it close. Keeps the knife from closing on your finger. You want to close the knife, you reach in with your finger, very carefully push the liner out the side, out of the way, and then your blade will fall shut. Sometimes with a little help, sometimes on its own. Very handy. As I say, this is the most common type of knife, or most common type of lock you'll see nowadays. It's very simple. Some people don't like them because they're afraid that when they're holding the knife, their finger is going to cause the liner to come undone. I can understand their feeling, but if I try to open the liner that way to close the knife, I can't. So, yeah, I understand the fears. I just don't think their fears are justified. So, very similar to the liner lock is something called a Framelock. The difference is, and let me get this out of the box. This one is a Kershaw Duojet. Very nice knife. And this one is assisted opening. I know we're supposed to be talking about locks, but let's just digress briefly, talk about what assisted opening means. For a knife to be assisted opening, it means that there is a spring inside this that helps the blade open when you go to open it. It is not, contrary to what some people will try to tell you, a switchblade. Switchblade has a button or switch of some sort set in the handle that is a completely separate mechanism. The only way to open or close the knife is by hitting that switch. If the spring broke on this, I could still open it because all the force is actually coming from this extended little piece of tang coming out the back, and it's my finger pushing down on it that causes it to jump open. Just as same little bit of tang on this one, again, it's my finger that pushing down on it that causes it to open. And if I wasn't trying to open it straight up, it would open a lot smoother. Still opens fairly nice. Easy way to tell the difference between the two: if it's not a lockback or not assisted opening, you can shake it shut. There's nothing keeping it from doing that. Now, assisted opening, the spring is going to kick in somewhere in here and cause the blade to want to jump back until you get fully closed. But we were talking about lock styles. This is a little tricky because the clip is right over it, but if you notice, this one does not have handle scales or liners. The handle is the actual frame of the knife. Framelock works the same way that a Linerlock does, in that a piece of the frame comes over and blocks between a third and half of the knife blade or tang so that it can't close. And you open it the same way. You push that little bit of frame back over until the knife closes. As I say, the difference between the two, this one has handle scales and a liner, and it's the liner that forms the lock mechanism. This one has no handle scales. It's just got a frame, and it's a piece of the frame that's moving over and keeping the blade from closing. And that's pretty much the three most common types of locks you're going to see anymore. There are a few others, admittedly. For instance, Spyderco has one that they call a ball lock. It's rather interesting. Matter of fact, let's see if I can find it for you, and we'll take a quick look. Okay, here we are at Spyderco's website, and this actually does a nice job of various types of locks, so we'll spend a few minutes here. Back lock or Lockback. You see how it locks into the back of the blade there. Here's the ball bearing lock, and this is, as I say, Spyderco is the only one I know of that uses this. But as you push the blade open, there's a ball bearing inside that slides down into this little groove cut in the blade at the pivot. And once that ball bearing falls in there, it won't let the pivot close because it's stuck. To get it closed, you have to pull a switch that releases the spring and lets the ball bearing come back out of the opening. The bolt action is very similar, except you've got a bolt or bar that slides in. And Chris Reeves, most of the rest of these you're not going to see too much until you get really into the hobby of collecting knives. But as you see, there are a few other types of locks. And Spyderco's website under education does a pretty decent job of explaining them. It's a little simple, but not bad. Now the other one that I've seen, and let's see here, we want to go to CRKT, and they are the only ones I know of that has this style of lock. So let me go down, pull it up. Yeah, here we go. It's being used on the M40, which is a classic. As you get into the world of knives and start discovering just how fun it is, you'll learn more about Kit Carson. I may do a video on some of the biggies in the knife world, just so you know some of the makers. But what happens with the M40 is it's got what's called a deadbolt. And no, it's not like your deadbolt on your front door. What it does is, and it's not showing it as well as it used to, but basically, if you flip this around, this little piece is one end of the deadbolt, and that's the other end. Now when the knife blade is open, this part pops out And this part with 2 pins in it drops into the blade to lock the blade open. Until you remove those pins from the blade, you can't close it. So to close it, you push on this. And when you push on that, this part that has the 2 pins in it comes out towards you. Pins come out of the blade, and you can then close the blade. They used to have a pretty decent diagram, but it looks like someone decided to take it down, or maybe it's just been moved. I'm not going to take the time to try to find it, though. But anyway, you kind of get the idea. So there you have it. As I say, it's really very simple, not that hard to figure out, not that hard to understand. But now you have an idea of what someone's talking about when they start talking about Linerlocks, Framelocks, Lockbacks, ball locks, and all that. And more importantly, someone hands you a knife, you know how to open it, and even more importantly, how to safely close it. I mean, after all, you don't need your knife closing on your fingers. You definitely don't want it closing on your fingers when you're just looking at it to decide whether or not to buy it. In the meantime, though, I'll wish you luck. You take care of yourself. I hope you enjoy your trip along this new found hobby of yours. That's assuming that you are getting into knife collecting. If you aren't, you just wanted to find out a little bit more information, well, I'm glad I was able to help. Meantime, I'll wish you luck. I'll leave you with a couple videos here that I think you might enjoy. At least I hope you do. And of course, as always, you can always hit this target over here to subscribe. In the meantime, you take care, and I'll see you again later this week. Bye now.